For Muslims, when we study the Quran, we're not just studying something that's an intellectual exercise. We're humbly studying the word of Allah. And part of our iman is that this word is supreme. وَكَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. The word of Allah is in the supreme place. It is above criticism. It's above, our commentary in terms of putting it down. Whether I'm a man or a woman, what I come to find in the book of Allah, before I even understand it, there are some things inside of me that will never change. And one of them is there is no greater gift of Allah than this revelation. This is the manifestation of Allah's ultimate love, care and mercy. He calls Himself Ar-Rahman when He describes that He taught the Quran. Ar-Rahmanu 'allama al-Quran. Anything the Quran teaches, as a matter of fact, is a manifestation. It's an example, a sample of Allah's loving care, mercy that is evidenced by His name, Ar-Rahman itself. But often, because some of these passages of the Quran or some of these subjects of the Quran are so muddled with controversy and criticism and allegations against Islam, it's actually no surprise now that even many Muslims are uncomfortable with parts of the Quran. And when they hear certain ayat of the Quran, they feel like, well, how do you explain this or how do you explain that? And it's okay to not understand. And it's okay to want to seek an explanation. That is perfectly fine. And as a matter of fact, it is also not okay to have a shallow understanding of the book of Allah, not truly understand what Allah is saying, and then fully confidently say, this is exactly what Allah means. We have to be humble, even as students of Allah's book. That at the end of the day, Allahu A'lam. The exercise of tadabbur, the exercise of reflecting on the Quran, trying to find meaning, purpose and guidance in the Quran, at the end of the day is a human effort. I will do my best to try to understand the word of Allah. But at the end of it all, the word of Allah is perfect and my mind is not. I'm only going to get as far as I can get. And at the end of it all, I have to give in. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ كُلُّ مِنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. Even when they come across what they can't quite understand, what is tashabaha minhu, what is somewhat ambiguous from the Quran, not so clear to them, those who are really truly rich in knowledge, they don't say, I know what this says. They say, we believe in it, all of it is from Allah, I'm okay, I'm good. That contentment in the heart needs to be there as a major prerequisite. Having a criticism when the heart of a believer has a criticism of the word of Allah, you have to understand that is no different than a criticism of Allah Himself. The word of Allah is actually a representation of Allah Azza wa Jal. It is from Him. This is His message. This is His position. So we have to have a humility, regardless of gender, when we approach this subject. The other thing I want to say is that actually later on in the Quran, by revelation earlier in the Mus'haf later on, one of the criticisms Allah Azza wa Jal made about the approach to His book is الَّذِينَ جَعَلُوا الْقُرْآنَ عِزِينَ. They took the Quran and they tore it to pieces. They took the Quran and tore it to pieces. Now it's pretty interesting that statement was made when the Prophet was in Mecca sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran wasn't even documented in writing yet. It wasn't even available as, how do you tear something that's not even written? The point was, you take one piece, one phrase, one word, one expression, one ayah even, and you rip it out of its context. You don't care to know what Allah said before, what Allah said after. Where does this belong? What are the other ayat that help you complete your understanding? Nope, you hear half a thing, you take a soundbite, which is what media does in propaganda, right? You take a soundbite, and then you'd say, this person said so and so. Well, actually, that's half the sentence. The other sentence, the rest of it is something else. Taking things out of context is actually one of the main implications of الَّذِينَ جَعَلُوا الْقُرْآنَ عِزِينَ.